But Rob, you mentioned it earlier. You think that the Miami Dolphins were the most impressive team of the weekend, of week one in general, which started Thursday. Why do you think that a lot of people would throw out Dallas, obviously, San Francisco, Detroit. Why would you go with Miami?
Chris, I just think the only thing that really stopped Miami was Tua and the concussions. And like you remember what they did last year. They were steamrolling through people. They had that big comeback win. Remember at Baltimore? You remember that? Well, I can't even remember all the details, but they scored eight touchdowns in the second half. Whatever it was ridiculous. And then for Tua and them to come out to the West Coast, Chris, and I get it, it's just one game, and the Chargers aren't world beaters or anything, but my God. And to put up the numbers and Tyreek Hill, they had nobody could stop him. Is Brandon Staley a defensive coach, or am I mistaken?
I'm starting to wonder.
Chris, are you?
Because that's been a big part of their problem during his tenure.
Right. He's supposedly a defensive coach, and did he act like they didn't have any film, or they couldn't figure out something to do with Tyreek Hill? Like he had never seen him play.
Wow, that guy's fast.
am I wrong? Like from the standpoint of, dude, double him, do something. You can't let that guy run amok. And then Tua yesterday, Chris, he had the big drive at the end to win the game. You know, they had to have a winning drive. He got that done. He threw for almost 500 yards on the road. Remember, his numbers were impressive last year. The only thing
he led the league in 7 passing categories. 7. And that's even including, he struggled a bit, and the team struggled kind of after some of his injuries. He at one point he had won an incredible amount of his starts.
Right. But
then
Chris,
last year they struggled toward the end.
But think about this. This is his first start, right? Since the concussion, okay?
Right.
28 for 45, 3 touchdowns, 110 quarterback rating, right? Down by 4 with the game on the final minutes. He goes 5 for 7, 71 yards, threw the game-winning touchdown to Tyreek Hill. He had 11 catches, 215 yards, a pair of touchdowns. And here's the other ones, Chris, numbers. In the last 12 games where he didn't leave for injury, Tua is averaging 309 passing yards per game, and has thrown 27 touchdown passes. I didn't expect these kind of things from him. I really didn't. I thought he was like you remember when there was even talk, is Miami going to draft another quarterback? You remember all that? There have been big questions about him. And one of the major questions is his health. Right, can he stay healthy? But I'm just saying, what a triumphant return to the field in a big game. And, Rob G, correct me if I'm wrong. I did pick Miami, didn't I? I picked Miami, Chris.
You picked them to win that division.
To win the division, yeah. And obviously, so seeing them do what they did, I feel even better. But I was saying, and when I picked them, I said, the only thing that stopped them last year was Tua and his health. It wasn't anything else, because they were really good. So that's why I'm saying I'm going with that. Dallas and the defense was great. Dallas has had a great defense for a couple of years. And they've had other issues, and for whatever reason, they get in the playoff games and they can't score.
It seems like you're saying, especially because your commentary is a lot about what Miami did last year, what Dallas did last year with that defense. It sounds like you're saying you think the best team coming out of week one is Miami. And we're not going to have this discussion, but I don't think they were the most impressive.
It was
because they still gave up 34 points.
It was impressive to me against Herbert and a high-powered offense, and they score points. That team scores points, Chris. If you look at
the
Chargers, they score.
Oh yeah,
they score points.
You still gave up. They don't score 34 a game.
Yeah, but you have to be able to win. Can you win a shootout? Can you get stops? You don't have to shut everybody out. You don't have to win 40-0 to have a good defense. Can you stop get them off the field on third downs? Not let them get the first downs in key situations. I was just impressed by Tua's first return back on the field in a game on the road. I thought he was tremendous.
It was a great game, and it was a great win. And Tua was tremendous. You mentioned Tyreek Hill. But they also, and one reason I don't even think they're in the discussion for the most impressive performance, is that they gave up the 34 points and it weren't facing a juggernaut of a defense. I mean, under Brandon Staley, the Chargers in points per game allowed were 29th his first year, 21st last year or second year, and 21st last year.
They're improving.
And so, right, they are improving, but they're still a bad defense. But worse than that, Rob, and we talked about this a lot last year, they give away games, right? Under Brandon Staley, they gave away games. And I'm not taking anything from Miami, but we know it was a 2-point game, 36-34, and things change. If the score changes, at halftime, then who knows what happens in the second half. So I'm not saying it totally cost them the game. But, Rob, did you see that pass interference at the end of the first half that allowed Miami to get in field goal position and kick a field goal?
Yeah, but they're bad calls all the time.
No, that wasn't a bad call. It was a bad play. The call was obvious. The defender for the Chargers,
you talking about running into him?
He shoved the receiver. Like little Rob. There were 3 defensive backs around the receiver, and one of them just pushed the receiver. Like, it wasn't even a need for that. It wasn't one of those accidental bumps. It wasn't like you're going for the ball and you make It was not your typical pass interference. It was just a blatant shove at the end of the freaking quarter on a Hail Mary. I mean, that's what the Chargers have done under Brandon Staley. And yesterday they did it again, and it was ridiculous.
I'm not a Brandon Staley.
That Miami is a team to be reckoned with.
I'm just saying for Tua, for me, to see him come back and put up the numbers, Chris, that he put up, that's what I'm most impressed by. And last year when he was healthy, they were really good. I don't want to say juggernaut, but at one point, they were really hard to beat, and they could come back on anybody. And I was impressed by that. I didn't see the after effects. Maybe he gets off to a bad start or a slow start, or you don't know what Tua is. Man, when he's been healthy, he looks good to me. Much
Tua's
better
good.
than I ever thought. Much better
Tua's
than I
good.
ever thought, Chris.
But you know who impressed me even more than Tua?
Who's that?
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, no, Tyreek is.
I mean, we all know how great he is. But, Rob, he is the most, in my opinion, he is the most dangerous, most unstoppable, greatest offensive weapon in the NFL outside of quarterbacks. I mean, that dude, right? He reminds me of Randy Moss. Obviously, very different in stature. He's listed at 5'10". Randy Moss was tall, 6'4". Like, Randy's height and speed just made him ridiculous. And you just threw it up there and he's going to outrun the defender or outjump the defender. Okay. But my point is, Tyreek reminds me of Randy Moss in terms of just being essentially unguardable. I mean, that dude's speed in a league of burners is otherworldly.
Yeah,
he's always open, and he can run tremendously after the catch. So they do these little slants because the defensive backs have to give him plenty of cushion, or he'll be by you by the 3rd yard if you get all up on him. And then because you give him the cushion, he's got room to run these slants and catch the ball with space, and then he takes off. And that play, and Tua made a great play moving up into the pocket, I can't remember the score, but it was a terrific, much needed play. He moves up into the pocket, steps up, and hits Tyreek for the long pass. Like, Tyreek Hill, an elite, Rob, is a lot of great receivers out there. I think he's the best. He can catch, obviously, but also his speed is just ridiculous. He gained 1,700 yards last year, and as you said, Tua missed a lot of those games.
Right, which was shocking. That's why didn't he say
now he's talking about 2,000, but right. Obviously Tua missed 4.5 games last year.
He's off to a good start with 200 yards in game one.
Right,
Chris, so
215, I think, to be exact.
On pace for over 3,000. How's that?
I don't think that's going to – but Rob, the dude is ridiculous. Now, Miami's dangerous. There's no questions about it. I've wondered, and I hope I'm wrong, if Tua is going to stay healthy. He's had, injuries dating back to college.
No, I get it. It's not just that.
Right,
but when he does play, and what we have seen since the early start where he was like, touch and go on where he could go, on how good he could be, I don't think there's any question now that if he's healthy, he's a good player, man. He's a good quarterback.
He's a good player. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He throws a lot of soft passes, but still, he's accurate, and his anticipation is tremendous, and that's why he works so well with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, because those are two great receivers. And Mike McDaniel, Rob, is a good coach, especially offensively. He is a smart coach. And they are dangerous. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.